After hours spent researching some of the darkest aspects of our society for information on the cases we cover, I find it can be really easy to forget about the more frivolous and joyful parts of life. Self-care is so important, and stepping back and reconnecting with the present moment is, dare I say, essential. One way I've been stopping and smelling the roses is by taking that phrase literally with Scentbird. Scentbird is a subscription service that helps you discover luxury designer fragrances. They have hundreds of fragrances from top designer brands, so you can customize your fragrance exploration every month. What I love about Scentbird is not only do you get to try luxury fragrances at a fraction of the price, but they also come in these amazing containers. They're so cute. I keep them in my makeup bag, my purse, and what I love about it is you can actually lock it, because a lot of scents, if you throw it in your purse, it just explodes everywhere. But as these are luxury fragrances, you don't want to waste it. So this lock really helps. I love how I can experiment with different scents for the seasons. Right now, I'm super into jasmine and summer scents. Each vial is a generous 30-day supply, which gives you plenty of time to see if the fragrance matches with your personality. If you're interested in exploring new scents and adding a unique touch to your routine, you can get 55% off of your first month with the code MERC55. That's MERC 55, or by scanning the QR code on the screen. With this code, you will get to try the first fragrance from Scentbird for only $8, and your next month, it will only be $16.95. That's over half off. Remember, it's MERC55 for 55% off of your first month at Scentbird. Thank you again to Scentbird for sponsoring our video. Jeanette Ralston was a 24-year-old young mother living in San Mateo with her husband and their 6-year-old son, Alan. Born in Germany, she had lived throughout the Bay Area in California, both in Benicia and San Mateo. In the late hours of January 31st, 1977, Jeanette left the Lion's Den bar in San Jose, California, telling her friends she would, quote, be back in 10 minutes. That promise, however, was never fulfilled. As her friends watched her depart, they noticed she was with a man they did not recognize. This would be the last time they saw their friend alive. On the morning of February 1st, an apartment complex owner on Graham Avenue, about a 5-minute drive from the bar, noticed a Volkswagen Beetle parked in the carport. Inside, she found a disturbing scene. Jeanette Ralston's body was crammed into the back seat, her shirt sleeve tightly wrapped around her neck. Investigators later confirmed she had been sexually assaulted and strangled. A carton of Eve cigarettes, popular among women at the time, was also found on the floorboard. Based on the crime scene evidence, detectives surmised that the killer had also attempted, but failed, to set the car on fire. Despite a sketch of the man seen leaving the bar with Jeanette that night, and the collection of multiple fingerprints from the crime scene, the investigation quickly ran cold. The prints did not match any entries in the FBI's fingerprint database at the time, and DNA technology was still years away from becoming a forensic standard. The case grew cold and remained on the shelf for decades. It was given light and new life, however, in 2023, when the Santa Clara County Cold Case Unit, created in 2011 by District Attorney Jeff Rosen, decided to give the case another look. Rob Baker, who heads the unit, described it as, quote, a Hail Mary effort. They reran the old fingerprint through the FBI database, which had been upgraded in 2018 with a more powerful search algorithm. This time, they got a match. The fingerprints came back as belonging to Willie Eugene Sims. In 1978, just 1 year after Jeanette's murder, 21-year-old Willie Sims was a U.S. Army private stationed at Fort Ord, about 70 miles south of San Jose. That same year, he was convicted of assault with intent to commit robbery and murder using a knife in a separate case that same year. He served 4 years in prison, but after his release, he quickly left California before his DNA could ever be entered into the Combined DNA Index System, also known as CODIS. It was Sims' thumbprint, which matched the one found on the Eve cigarette carton inside of Ralston's car. Investigators then traveled to Jefferson, Ohio, in Ashtabula County, where Sims, now 69 years old, had been living a quiet and peaceful life with no further criminal record. With a search warrant in hand, police collected a DNA sample and compared it to the DNA found on Jeanette's fingernails and on the red shirt sleeve that was used to strangle her. The DNA was a conclusive match. Additionally, the original police sketch from 1977 bore a striking resemblance to Sims' booking photo from his 1978 conviction. William Eugene Sims was arrested in Ohio and waived his right to fight extradition. He was brought back to Santa Clara County and arraigned in San Jose on one count of murder. He did not enter a plea and is being held without bail. His next court date is set for August of 2025. If convicted, Sims faces 25 years to life in prison. Jeanette Ralston's son, Alan, was just 6 years old when she was murdered. For most of his life, he had no idea that investigators were still working on the case. In May of 2024, just before his 55th birthday, his father gifted to him never-before-seen photos of his mother. Not long after, Alan received a call from a detective who informed him that they were close to solving his mother's case. Alan reflects to reporters, quote, "How do you thank someone for something like that? I mean, what a great Mother's Day gift and birthday present rolled into one. My whole life, I have never even understood what Mother's Day even means." He later wrote on social media that he did not know how to process the news, but deeply appreciated the investigators' efforts. "Your persistence, dedication, and devotion to me and my family is unquestionably some of the greatest form of respect and love for my mother. You have undoubtedly made a 6-year-old kid happy after all these years." On the morning of June 13th, 1986, Shirley Brandt, 49, was working at her office, Brandt Realty Corporation, located on Northeast 18th Avenue in New York, Miami Beach, Florida. Shirley was a successful commercial real estate developer. She was on the phone with the client when two well-dressed men entered the second-story office. A temporary employee working nearby on a computer later told police that she heard Shirley scream and saw one of the men trying to wrestle the phone from her. Before the call ended, the client on the line heard Shirley shout, "Don't shoot." Seconds later, a gunshot rang out. Shirley had been shot in the face with a small caliber firearm. The intruders fled the scene, taking with them cash and credit cards. Shirley was rushed to Parkway Regional Hospital, but later died from her injuries. An autopsy confirmed that she had been killed by a single gunshot wound to the head. Police recovered fingerprints from the crime scene, including from the telephone found under Shirley's desk, the same phone from which she had screamed for help. However, for reasons still unclear, those prints were never entered into the Automatic Fingerprint Identification System, also known as AFIS. Despite the presence of physical evidence and a witness account, no suspects were identified at the time, and the case eventually went cold. The murder of Shirley Brandt left a lasting wound on her family. Her husband, Dr. Lawrence Brandt, a respected North Miami Beach dentist, was devastated. According to his son, Dr. Stephen Brandt, he never recovered from the loss. The son spoke to media and said, quote, "He missed my mom terribly, terribly. He hired a private eye to look over things and to see that everything was done." He recalls, quote, "We had a wonderful dinner at a restaurant in Gainesville. She passed away 1 week before her 50th birthday. She had said that she had seen a birthday card that said, 'It's nifty to be 50, but she never made it to 50. After her death, more than 600 people attended her funeral. Her husband, Dr. Brandt, channeled his grief into activism, later founding the Shirley Brandt Memorial Fund against handgun crime. The case remained unsolved for decades. But in January of 2023, the North Miami Beach Police Department launched a renewed effort by forming a cold case unit to revisit old homicide investigations. 2 retired detectives, Sergeants Pam Denham and Yvette Darden, came out of retirement in order to lead the new review of Shirley Brandt's case. During the review, the team discovered the fingerprints collected from the 1986 crime scene. Using modern forensic technology, the prints were finally reanalyzed and submitted into AFIS. On March 21, 2025, the Miami-Dade Sheriff's Office Crime Lab matched a fingerprint from the scene to Jeffrey Taylor, a 64-year-old man with a prior criminal history. On April 24, 2025, Taylor was arrested and charged with second-degree murder with a firearm. These charges, however, could turn into more serious ones, possibly that of first-degree murder or capital murder, which would open up the possibility for the death penalty. In many states, such as that of Florida, when a murder occurs during the course of a robbery, it is seen as a capital offense, and therefore the murderer is eligible for the death penalty. The cowardly motive behind the 1986 murder of Shirley Brandt appears to have been money. According to reports, the 2 men may have donned professional clothing in order to avoid drawing attention to themselves, as they were described as, quote, nicely dressed by witnesses. When Shirley resisted their robbery demands, one of the men, later identified as Jeffrey Taylor, allegedly shot her at close range. The assailants then fled the scene with stolen cash and credit cards. Taylor is currently being held at Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center and has been denied bond. Authorities say they have not ruled out the possibility that the same individuals were involved in other similar crimes around that time. At an emotional press conference held on May 9, 2025, North Miami Beach Police Chief Juan Pinillos announced Taylor's arrest. Standing with him were Brandt's sons and members of the cold case unit. The Brandt family expressed a mix of relief, grief, and appreciation, and while Taylor has been charged, authorities are still actively searching for the second suspect who entered the office that day. If you have any information in regards to the identity or whereabouts of this second suspect, please contact the North Miami Beach Police Department tip line at area code 305-949-5500, extension 2521. You could also call the Miami-Dade Crime Stoppers for anonymous tips at area code 305-471-TIPS. On a quiet spring morning in March of 1998, a dog walker made a horrifying discovery in a woodland near Gulliver's World theme park in Warrington, Cheshire. During his walk, he came upon a black trash bag abandoned near an oft-traveled path. Inside was the tiny, lifeless body of a newborn baby boy. Upon investigation, it was found that nobody knew where he'd come from or who had left him there. He had no name nor identifying information attached to him, so the community gave him a name, Callum, after the Callans district where he had been found. For 25 years, his death remained one of the most heartbreaking and senseless unsolved mysteries in the UK. The trash bag was first noticed on March 12, 1998, when a passerby noticed a young woman leaving the woods in distress. It was only 2 days later that the dog walker came upon it. Recalling that he was curious about the bag, he says he prodded it with a stick, which revealed the body inside. The infant had bruising to his face, head, and neck, and wads of tissue had been stuffed in his mouth. An autopsy later showed that he had been dead for at least 3 days. Forensic testing later revealed that the baby had been born healthy, with no deformities nor illnesses. A postmortem doctor determined the cause of death was likely asphyxiation from the tissues inside the infant's mouth, but due to the decomposition and lack of witnesses, the official cause was listed as, quote, unascertained. Police launched a massive investigation. Forensic officers recovered blood on the trash bin bags, and from it, they extracted a full DNA profile of the baby's mother. But in 1998, the UK's police DNA databases were still limited. House-to-house inquiries were conducted. Checks were made with hospitals, clinics, schools, and midwives. Detectives combed through supermarket records and interviewed hundreds of people, but no match was ever found. The baby's mother had seemingly vanished, likely never intending to be found. Callum was laid to rest with dignity, mourned by a community that had both never known him and never forgotten him. For decades, the case went cold. In 2021, a new cold case team began reviewing unsolved infant deaths, including Callum's. Then, in 2023, a breakthrough came from an unexpected place. A young man was arrested on an unrelated matter, and as part of standard procedure, his DNA was uploaded to the national database. A flag was raised. His genetic profile was a near match to that of baby Callum, suggesting he was likely a sibling. The match probability was staggering, 1 in 36 billion. Investigators quickly began reviewing the man's family. The man's name was Matthew Sharkey. Both his mother and father's DNA were collected, and when results came back, it confirmed the truth police had been chasing for over 2 decades. Joanne Sharkey, the man's mother, was also Callum's biological mother. Her husband, Neil Sharkey, was identified as the baby's father. On July 28, 2023, police arrived at the couple's home in Croxteth, Liverpool. Bodycam footage shows Joanne Sharkey, now 55 years old, opening the door in pink pajamas, which read "Mom" across the front. When officers told her why they were there, she turned to her husband and quietly said, quote, "He knows nothing about it." Both were arrested at that point, but it would soon become clear that Joanne had acted alone. Upon being arrested for suspicion of murder, as Joanne sat in the backseat of a police car, a covert recording device captured her words. Quote, "I'm not gonna effing deny nothing. It is what it is, isn't it? I effing did it." Later, in formal interviews, the mother broke her silence. She explained that she had been a housing benefit officer at West Lancashire Council and had given birth to her first son, Matthew, in 1996. After his birth, Sharkey says she began to suffer from postpartum depression, which was never formally diagnosed nor treated. In 1997, she became pregnant again. Overwhelmed and fearful of becoming a mother a second time, she concealed the pregnancy from everyone: her husband Neil, her colleagues, her friends, and even her doctor. She wore larger clothes, kept to herself, and emotionally withdrew from everyone. She described her marriage at the time as, quote, "ships in the night," with Neil working long and inconsistent shifts. It was enough, she said, in order to keep the secret that was growing inside of her completely hidden. She recalls the birth as being a blur, the fear and depression overwhelming her. She said she had blocked out parts of the memory, but that she was the only one there and could not face raising another child. On March 11, 1998, she went into labor at home, alone. In her police interview decades later, she recalled how the labor was quick and quiet. Upon his birth, she says that the baby began to cry, and in a fog of emotional panic, she recalls reaching down and covering his mouth and nose. She said, quote, "It just couldn't make that noise, just to be quiet. I sort of reached down. I must have been on the floor at this point." She said she did not know what to do. The noise had terrified her and the thoughts spiraled. Afterward, she placed the newborn baby in trash bags and drove more than half an hour away to Warrington in order to leave the baby in the woods. When asked about the tissue in the baby's mouth or the bruising, she replied, quote, "No comment." She claims she did not remember the details clearly and says, quote, "It's haunting, something you think about every day. You try and push it out, but it creeps back in. Despite having her DNA on file from the trash bags, Sharkey had never been in trouble with the law, so no matches came up until 2023. Initially charged with murder, Sharkey ultimately pleaded guilty to manslaughter by diminished responsibility and concealment of birth. 2 psychiatrists who examined her agreed she had been suffering from a severe depressive illness at the time, which substantially impaired her ability to make rational decisions or exercise self-control. On April 4, 2025, she was sentenced at Liverpool Crown Court. Sitting at the stand, shaking and tearful, she listened as Mrs. Justice Eady passed judgment. The judge said, quote, "The events that bring us to this court are both terrible and tragic. You've lived isolated with this terrible knowledge. I'm satisfied your offending was not planned or premeditated. This very sad case calls for compassion. No useful purpose would be achieved by immediate imprisonment." Sharkey was given a 2-year suspended prison sentence for manslaughter and a concurrent 6-month suspended sentence for concealment. She will also undergo mental health treatment and be supervised for the duration of the suspension. Sharkey sat in the dock, shaking and wiping away tears as her family wept and hugged in the public gallery. Her husband, Neil, whom police never charged, offered a written statement acknowledging his own shortcomings and expressing sorrow for his wife's pain. He insists he had never known she was carrying a second child. Following the verdict, Detective Inspector Hannah Friend reflected, quote, "We will continue to remember Callum, as will all those affected by this tragic case. The dedication to officers, past and present, helped bring the truth to light, and justice, at last, for a child who was never forgotten. Officers plan to visit Callum's grave again, to lay flowers, and to honor the promise they made to him in 2021, to find his name, to tell his story, and to reveal the truth." A big thanks to Scentbird for sponsoring this video. Check them out by scanning the QR code or by using promo code MERC55 for 55% off your first month at Scentbird.